Hi guys, it's Israel and Jose, and we're going to be talking to you about environmentalism and the various ways nonviolence can protect our planet. Environmentalism, or concern about and action aimed at protecting the environment, originated in the 1960s after disagreement over the hydrogen bomb testing in Bikini Atoll, oil spills on the coast of California, and insecticides. Rachel Carson can be noted as one of the pioneers of the movement for her work Silent Spring, which brought about awareness to the movement, particularly the effect of DDT on the environment. The pesticide DDT thins eggshells of birds, reducing their survival rate, and led to the passing of Endangered Species Act, which prohibits importing, exporting, taking, possessing, selling, and transporting endangered and threatened species. The Act also provides for the designation of critical habitat and prohibits the destruction of that habitat. Carson's activism led to an increase in concern for the environment and therefore facilitated the passing of the Clean Air Act of 1970, which focused on the control of air pollution, and the Clean Water Act of 1972, that regulates water quality as well as how pollutants are discharged in water. However, the biggest concern of environmentalists regards climate change.
In the 1950s, the population of the Earth increased by almost 60%, leading to increase not only in the frequency with which fossil fuels such as coal and oil were burned to provide energy. Burning these fossil fuels led to an increase in greenhouse gases in our environment, particularly carbon dioxide, which forms a blanket in our atmosphere.
This blanket of gas then disrupts the balance of incoming solar energy and outgoing infrared energy by trapping both solar and infrared energy close to the Earth's surface and warming it up. Additionally, carbon dioxide molecules can take up to hundreds of years to clear out of the atmosphere, so the heavy dependence on fossil fuels to power our cars and homes is only worsening the problem.
As a result of the climate increase on the Earth's surface, droughts are more likely to happen, posing a significant problem for agriculture. Polar ice caps will also melt, raising the sea level and endangering polar species and destroying their habitats. Increased climate also creates holes in the ozone layer, a part of the Earth's atmosphere that protects us from the sun's UV rays. As a result, humans are more susceptible to skin damage and radiation from the sun, which can cause cancer.
The problem of climate change is most certainly a global one, and there have been plenty of groups taking a stance on the issue, particularly the Catholic Church. In his encyclical Laudato Si, which discusses care for the earth, Pope Francis says that as stewards of the environment, we are called to take care of the earth that God gave us. Pope Francis cuts straight to the chase and laments pollution, climate change, a lack of clean water, loss of biodiversity, and an overall decline in human life. He states, "Never have we so hurt and mistreated our common home as we have in the last 200 years. And acknowledging the destruction to our planet is largely man-made, he advocates for ending the use of fossil fuels for energy. Although this action is nonviolent, there is no underestimating the passion in his words, suggesting that nonviolence is not passive but active."
Today, environmentalism takes many shapes. Local movements often include protection and preservation of communal environmental spaces like state parks and rally around locally unwanted land uses, such as the building of housing developments or the construction of chemical plants because of health concerns. On the national level, there are many prominent environmental non-governmental organizations, or NGOs, that lobby for national environmental legislation and promote updates of laws like the Clean Water Act and the Endangered Species Act. Internationally, both federal and private organizations also play an important role in international discussions on the environment. These include transnational issues like climate change and ozone degradation.
There are plenty of ways to nonviolently advocate for care of the environment. One of the simplest and most common ways is through recycling. Recycling is the process of converting waste materials into new materials and objects. It can prevent the waste of potentially useful materials and reduce the consumption of fresh raw materials by reducing energy usage, air pollution, and water pollution. Renewable resources as wind power, photovoltaics, and hydroelectricity have the advantage of being able to conserve water, lower pollution, and reduce carbon dioxide emissions. On April 22, 1970, millions of people took to the streets to protest the negative impacts of 150 years of industrial development. Smog was becoming deadly, and evidence was growing that pollution led to developmental delays in children. Biodiversity was in decline as a result of the heavy use of pesticides and other pollutants. On that day, Earth Day was established, and it is now a global event each year, and we believe that more than 1 billion people in 192 countries now take part in what is the largest civic-focused day of action in the world. It is a day of political action and civic participation. People march, sign petitions, meet with their elected officials, plant trees, clean up their towns and roads. Corporations and governments use it to make pledges and announce sustainability measures. Since the very first Earth Day, our nation has some incredible improvements in watching out for the well-being of our planet. The National Environmental Policy Act of 1969 went into effect, becoming a landmark that requires every major decision of the federal government to be evaluated for its impact on the environment. In 1987, many of the world's nations came together to agree on the Montreal Protocol, which outlawed a series of chemicals called chlorofluorocarbons that had been destroying the Earth's protective ozone layer. In 2000, the Prius was introduced, and the hybrid drivetrain to many customers helped kick off the movement toward greater fuel efficiency. Within a few years, almost every car company began offering hybrid models. Walk Score was founded in 2007, rating cities, neighborhoods, and more for how pedestrian-friendly they are.
Perhaps the most impactful result of the climate movement is the Paris Agreement. This is an agreement within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, dealing with greenhouse gas emissions mitigation, adaptation, and finance, starting in the year 2020. The Paris Agreement's central aim is to strengthen the global response to the threat of climate change by keeping a global temperature rise this century well below 2 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial levels, and to pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase even further to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Additionally, the agreement aims to increase the ability of countries to deal with the impacts of climate change, and at making finance flows consistent with a low GHG emission and climate resilient pathway. That being said, go be stewards of the environment and protect our planet.